Just start up, Bill. Live on YouTube. Hey, Tracy, why don't you trade places with me?
We'd like to welcome you all to the October 14th, 2020 Cicero Town Board meeting. I'd like to announce who's here in the room with me. We have Officer Freeman, Tracy Councilman, and Gretchen Walter. Also, we have on our YouTube channel, Carlo, Judy Whitey, Jonathan Carp, James C. White, Steve Propio, Alpha Johans, Steve Rapino, Robert Dumaine, Chris Wesnicka, Kate Ciarello, Terry Rogers, Mike Mauricio, Teresa Raw, and Tony Rock.
We'll let you on the Zoom meeting.
Hey, Bill, you're on mute. It's hard to hear.
I can't hear.
Looking at it, I don't know, otherwise, if not, the meeting will start.
I apologize.
I can't hear anything.
We're having some audio with your approval. I'll approve the first part of the meeting. I'd like to welcome
I can't hear.
those who are here. Hey, Tracy, the computer for Bill. Tracy, your computer is picking up Bill. I'm sorry. We have Mike Bacala, Jonathan Carpenter, White, Steve Procopio, Elka Johans, Steve Bertino, Robert Janane, Chris Woznicka, Kate Fiorello, Jody Rogers, Mike Mauricio, Teresa Roth, and Tony Broccoli. Okay, y'all
Yes.
Clerk?
He said my computer's picking up Bill. Wayne's on it. He's echoing back. Bill's echoing back. I know.
Let me try and put you on a headset.
Okay.
Tracy and Wayne are getting clerk fitted for some a headset, and so we're going to have some new technology here. So, with your patience, we'll get.
Can you hear okay?
Yeah.
Can you hear the meeting? Tracy, can you hear people talking?
There's a delay.
I know, that's the problem with doing this, with these two computers in the room.
Okay, let's try it.
All right, try it, otherwise. Don't give it a shot.
Can you hear me, Tracy? With the assistance of the clerk and the deputy clerk, please call the roll.
We're just waiting for you to call the roll.
Counselor Boyke?
Here,
Can they hear?
here.
Counselor,
I'm not, I don't know.
can anybody hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
Counselor Boyke?
yes.
Counselor Carp?
Here.
Counselor White? Here. Counselor Bacallo?
Here.
Supervisor Meyer?
Here. Please rise, and we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance.
Wayne, there's like a delay, like,
I know, Tracy, I can't.
pledge allegiance to the flag
Flag,
of the
United States of America,
to the republic,
Republic,
one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty, justice.
indivisible, liberty and justice for
Please
all.
remain standing for a moment of silence for our troops in harm's way. And please, for a moment, keep in your hearts the family of William Bill Stewart, who passed away this weekend at the age of 91. Bill is a longtime resident of the town of Cicero. And as a lot of us know, Bill served for 35 years as the chair of the planning committee. Thank you. With the approval of the board, I'm going to take a 2-minute break just for a second so that we can get the audio components in the room together. So with your concurrence, we'll just hold off on the agenda for a moment so Wayne and Tracy can get together. So
No objection.
It's fine.
You know, she could-
I just don't listen to it, and then I just listen to Bill.
you and I will do it. We'll have a record. Right, I will. I'll do it. I'll do it. We'll be fine.
Can't even sing the bill. Bill, I'm having trouble getting.
329 first, 329 first, the whole passenger. John Boy Victor, 4114, ABB, 4114.
Seven one two eight for Fox, the 20 series 461-988, 461-988. How does be like?
Keep your microphones on.
Minus?
Yes.
Bill, why don't you go ahead?
Okay, the next item on the agenda, number 2, is approval of abstracts. Nancy?
Approval of abstracts. Resolved, the Cicero Town Board approves abstract number 42 dated October 5th, 2020.
Okay, we have a
Second,
motion by Ms. White. Do we have a second?
a second,
Second, Ms.
Judy.
White. Discussion on number 2. Hearing none, clerk will call the roll.
Counselor Blakey,
yes.
Counselor Carr,
Yes.
Counselor White,
Yes.
Paolo,
Aye.
Supervisor Meyer.
Yes, item is adopted. The next item is the public hearing on local law number 10 for the override of the tax, 2% tax cap. Is some information prior. The notice was posted. I have documentation from the clerk. I'll be reading some emails that we have some input on this item, and we're going to be leaving the public hearing open. So we'll cover that now, and then we'll be addressing it later on. So next, I have a notice from the State Comptroller's Office. Property tax levy growth for local governments with fiscal years closing December 31st will be capped at 1.56% for 2021, according to State Comptroller Thomas P. DiNapoli. This figure affects tax cap calculations for all counties, towns, fire districts 44 cities and 11 villages. Okay, Nancy, you have the next part of the public hearing. So it's open and you have it, Nancy.
Okay, Town of Cicero, local law number 10 for the year 2021, a local law to override the tax levy limit established in General Municipal Law, Section 3C. Be it enacted by the Town Board of the Town of Cicero as follows. 1, legislative intent. It is the intent of this local law to override the limit on the amount of real property taxes that may be levied by the Town of Cicero pursuant to General Municipal Law, Section 3C, and to allow the Town of Cicero to adopt a budget for the fiscal year beginning January 1st, 2021 and ending December 31st, 2021, that requires a real property tax levy in excess of the tax levy limit as defined by General Municipal Law, Section 3C. Section 2, authority. This local law is adopted pursuant to Subdivision 5 of the General Municipal Law, Section 3C, which expressly authorizes the town board to override the tax levy limit by the adoption of a local law approved by a vote of at least 60% of the town board. Section 3, tax levy limit override. The town board of the town of Cicero, located in the county of Onondaga, is hereby authorized to adopt a budget for the fiscal year 2021 that requires a real property tax levy in excess of the amount otherwise prescribed in General Municipal Law, Section 3C. Section 4, severability. If any clause, sentence, paragraph, subdivision, or part of this local law or the application thereof to any person, firm, or corporation or circumstance shall be adjusted by any court of competent jurisdiction to be invalid or unconstitutional, such order or judgment shall not affect, impair, or invalidate the remainder thereof, but shall be confined in its operation to the clause, sentence, paragraph, subdivision, or part of this local law, or in its application to the person, individual, firm, or corporation, or circumstance directly involved in the controversy in which such judgment or order shall be rendered. Section 5, effective date. This local law shall take effect immediately upon filing with the Secretary of State. So would anyone like to speak in favor of or against this local law?
Any comments from the board members?
I have a couple questions that are for our attorney. I was asked, and I don't have the answer. If this local law isn't passed, what are the consequences if the town budget does go over 2% without a local law tax cap? Robert?
I'm not sure if Robert could hear you. Mr. Jermaine, there you are. Thank you.
Yeah, I heard it. I don't know the answer to that off the top of my head. I could look into it, but I don't know what the ramifications are.
Well, people ask me, and I guess I don't know it either, which obviously is of a concern. The other thing is, in the town law manual, Article 2, real property tax cap 4-5 overview. I'm going to read it. It says, in 2011, the legislature enacted the real property tax cap, which established a limit on the annual growth of property taxes a local government or school district may levy to either 2% government or school district may levy either 2% or the rate of inflation, whichever is less. This prohibits the town from imposing a property tax in excess of 2% or the rate of inflation of the prior years levied unless the town has enacted the annual local law by supermajority of the board overriding the tax cap. In 2015, this is the part that's concerning, the legislature extended the sunset date of the real property tax cap to June of 2020. In recent years, the levy limit has been well below 2%, with the 2016 limit capped at 0.073%. What does this real property tax cap sunset date mean to June 2020? What's a sunset date?
Sunset dates are usually the date that a law would expire, but I don't know if it's been extended. I believe it's been extended and still valid.
Well,
I can find
anyway,
out for you if you want.
yes, please do, because this is right in the latest town law manual that I received this year. So, and I happened to come upon it, obviously, when I was looking for information regarding the tax cap. I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Judy. I think that's why maybe the state comptroller came out this summer with a announcement as far as the new number, which is 1.56.
I understand, but it doesn't say that this has been extended, or it's because this says to June of 2020. I guess I'd like to see something that states that it has been extended. Thank you.
Okay. Any other board members?
I think it's important to say that if for some reason we don't go over that 1.56%, that passing this local law will have no effect, and we can just rescind it if we don't need it. But if we don't pass it, there are some sort of consequences, and we go over it.
Right, and that's, I guess what I'm looking for is what are the consequences if we go over it?
Yeah, that's found in General Municipal Law 3C6, which basically says that we would need to put the amount that's in the excess over the limit in reserve. Doesn't look like there's any actual penalties for that. To piggyback on what Ms. White said, I guess I would comment that passing this local law, and we know we're not voting on it tonight because the supervisor said we're keeping the public hearing open, it just puts a tool in the toolbox and enables us to exceed the tax cap if it's necessary. It doesn't mean we're necessarily going to. It certainly doesn't mean any of us want to. But I would also say that, people need to keep in mind when talking about these things that we have contractually required raises for our union employees, that health insurance premiums go up every year, that we have equipment that does hard work and heavy lifting in the highway department and other places that wears out and needs to be repaired. So none of us ever really want to raise taxes, but a lot of these costs are beyond our control. And we want roads to be paved, we want salt to be laid down during the winter, and those costs go up every year. And as a result, especially because we're not blessed with some of the commercial development that some of our neighboring towns have, we don't have the revenues always to offset that, which is why sometimes these laws need to be passed. Again, I'm not saying we're going to do it or that I want to do it, but those are some of the reasons why it just has to happen sometimes.
I agree, John, but also the fact that when it's the consequences are, I believe, of it we're supposed to put money in the reserve for the next year, and I don't believe that has been done. And I know this tax cap has been passed and gone over for at least the last 9 years. So, but anyway, I'd like to really look into that if that is a consequence. Thank you.
This isn't about the tax cap to me. It's just a lot of talk. And again, I respect my colleagues. It's a lot of talk about, money. And I don't know about you, but I've received a whole lot of feedback last week. And I don't even know how we're even entertaining this right now in the year 2020, right? Everything that's going on. I have neighbors that are out of work, and I know you probably all do too. I've been fortunate enough to still, hold on to work, and I'm very pleased of that. Unconscionable to me that we're even discussing this. And the fact that it is on the agenda leads me to believe that the plan is to go forward with it, because I've seen it before this town. Just as Councilor Boyke has said, if it's on the agenda, it's meant to get passed in the last 9 years. And it's frustrating because, again, it was there for a safety net for a year to make sure things are back on track. And this town is continually spend, tax and spend, and it needs to stop, especially 2020. This year with the pandemic, people are out of work. Unconscionable that we're even discussing this right now. I will be a vote of no, whether that vote is tonight or next week or the week after, frankly.
Okay, I don't hear any further comments. So with
Comment.
Nancy, go ahead.
I was in another one of these webinars a week or so ago that specifically discussed this. And they were adamant in preparing everyone for at least a 20% cut in state funds. There's no way that we can not go over this. If they're going to cut us by 20%, where are we going to get it from? I understand I don't want to raise taxes. I don't want to go over the tax cap. But if they're adamant that we have got to plan for a 20% cut in chips and anything else that we get from the state, it's got to come from someplace. We can cut anything we can, but I doubt it's going to be less than 1.56%.
I guess the other thing I would point out, and this is a little bit cynical, is that part of the purpose of the tax cap is so that the people who pass the tax cap, which is our representatives in Albany, get to point the finger at us when constituents go to them and complain about their property taxes going up. Because New York is the land of the unfunded mandate, and the state passes a lot of costs on down to us through a lot of different things you may not even think of, and then tells us we have to pay for it. And then they put a 2% or whatever tax cap on us, so that when you go to your state representative, your state assemblyman, your state senator, and say, my property taxes keep going up, they can shrug their shoulders and say, hey, I know it's terrible, mine went up too. We put a tax cap on your local government. You should go talk to your town board about it. Even though in a lot of cases, they're the sources of the additional expenses that we had to raise taxes to cover. So it's really, a lot of this is really just about passing the buck. And yes, school districts also have a tax cap, but the rules are different from them. I'm not going to get into why or how. It's worth looking into, but you know, it's not really what it necessarily appears to be. And this is not defending going over it. It's just putting it out there that this is not this, the tax cap was not some altruistic act by our representatives in Albany intended to protect all of us. It was really just about shifting blame.
Thank you, John.
I'm gonna go through the emails I received. I put those either in your box, or I noticed on some of them you were copied on it, members of the board. So I'll go through. We have quite a few of them. First one is from a
Bill, before you start, I did have one too. I just wanted to make sure it got in there as well. I'll wait till you're done though.
Okay, thank you. Okay, from Richard Barber. I'm a new town resident this year, responding to the upcoming board agenda to pass a law allowing the town to exceed the 2% tax cap. I would like to voice my concerns raising taxes instead of tightening purse strings. People are out of work due to the chaos of the pandemic has caused, and there is no end in sight. I'm strongly against taxes being raised higher if at all can be avoided. I understand the pandemic has increased costs. Taxes are already onerous enough. There's only so much we can pay. Honestly, I'm concerned how I'm going to afford large tax increases as I approach retirement. Thank you for your consideration. Next one from a Mike Basile. Hello, if my property taxes increased this February, please never ask for my vote again. With the house in our town selling well above current assessments, I have no doubt the town can't wait to raise its assesses all our properties always. With the current real estate demand, I doubt the town even cares about the people that budgeted for their current taxes, knowing that someone will buy our houses and hit the market at inflated prices. Michael Averio, I am opposed to this. I would like to understand how COVID-19 has specifically impacted our town, and also please include the cost savings that have incurred as well, with a reduction in traffic, town costs, etc. From Laura Dewey, it is my understanding that we have exceeded the tax cap for the past 2 years. With the pandemic and so many people out of work struggling, wouldn't it be wise to help citizens of Cicero rather than burden us with higher taxes? When will it be enough? I have seen many people leave Cicero because of overtaxing and extremely congested traffic. The citizens of Cicero need help, not higher taxes. I do not understand why you can't make accommodations so the citizens can speak out against another tax increase. We need a break, not higher taxes. A very concerned taxpayer. From Paul Drake, I'm asking the board not to exceed the 2% cap and toe the line regarding tax increases. Thank you. From a Floyd Hathaway to the Cicero Town Board about the law to exceed the 2% tax cap. I believe us taxpayers are burdened enough as it is. The tax cap was put in place for a reason, and you should abide by the law. We are in a pandemic, and you should act accordingly by curtailing on the spending. From Lynn Jones, I'm writing you in regard to the 2% potential rise. I live in Cicero, and my neighborhood has had a real estate reassessment and increase this past summer. Any further increases in living costs or expenses should be voted down. I would ask both you and the other members to please reconsider these added costs and vote no. I have an appointment tomorrow evening where I would be in attendance for the virtual meeting tomorrow evening. Okay, I have a rather long email from a Joseph Peters. Dear Supervisor Meyer, Councilors Bacallo, Boyke, Jonathan Karp, and Councilor White. My name is Joseph Peters, and my wife Erin and I reside at 6262 Winmore Drive. We have lived in the town of Cicero since the fall of 2008. When I read the email that the town of Cicero is going to exceed the property tax cap set in place by the governor almost 10 years ago, I decided that I had to make my opinion heard. I contacted Supervisor Meyer by phone, and we had a conversation in which I voiced my frustrations, and he encouraged me to email him and all of the town councilors. First and foremost, everyone has been affected by the pandemic. Many town of Cicero residents have lost jobs or businesses. Many are working from home with reduced pay and or the potential to completely lose their jobs. To decide to enact a local law that exceeds the 2% property tax cap, that doesn't even allow the taxpayers to have a say in the process, is, in my opinion, a blatant disregard for the citizens. In the 12 years we have lived in the town of Cicero, I have seen my assessment attempted to be raised multiple times. I've had to plead my case in front of an assessment board comprised of strangers, where I had to show images of the inside of my home to prove that I didn't increase my property value by updating the kitchen or bathroom. I had to agree to allow a representative to enter my home to confirm that there have been no updates. The current assessor is not friendly to those citizens who attempt an informal review of the proposed assessment. Rather, she will do whatever she deems necessary to ensure that the proposed increase in assessment happens, even showing up at the assessment board meeting to argue that the square footage of my home is incorrect, without notifying me of such change, or in viewing the photographs of the inside of my home. A piece of sheetrock applied to a basement wall renders the non-living space as living space. The previous assessor listened and did not make you feel as if you were wrong when approaching him for an informal review. During my second reassessment less than 3 years ago from the encounter mentioned above, which goes against the every 3 years plan outlined on the town of Cicero website, I had my 35-year-old home evaluated by a real estate agent who indicated in his report that my home was not worth the assessed value, that we would need to put in over $20,000 on improvements into the home just to ask what we paid for it. And the assessment board still increased my assessment by $5,000. The entire assessment process is adversarial, and something needs to be done so that taxpayers do not feel as if they are committing a crime and having to give up personal freedoms, having to present pictures of the interior of the home, allowing someone to enter the home to verify the images were in fact the home in question. Having 15 minutes to argue why you feel that your home wasn't increased by $17,000, etc. Although the town of Cicero, up until this point in time, had not enacted a local law to go above the property tax cap, the town did increase its revenue stream by annually reassessing residential properties and thus generating more property tax funds while staying below the 2% cap. The former supervisor's Taj Mahal, the new highway department garage, which came in over budget and was touted as only costing taxpayers the price of your family out for pizza and wings per $100,000 of assessed value for the next 10 years or so, will now be increased as well, especially when the town of Cicero has been proactive in raising assessments. In addition to town taxes now being subject to an increase that the town supervisor cannot even estimate to me over the phone,
The taxpayers will see an increase in school taxes, which year after year have increased with no end in sight. Onondaga County is taxing the residents of the town of Cicero in the form of a 4% delivery fee for natural gas and electric services, and potentially an annual fee to have recyclables picked up. We have noticed several winters ago that our street is not being plowed as regularly as it used to be. I leave for work at 4:30 a.m., and there were many mornings when town plows did not even show up until well after 8 a.m. This has become the new norm, not an exception. When we asked the town code enforcement officer to come to our home to view the flooding issues that have arisen in our development, he explained to me that the flooding in our backyard was due to excessive rain, not the fact that his office had granted my neighbor 2 doors down a permit to raise the level of his backyard to put a pool in. And as a result of that, myself and my neighbors to my right and my left now find our backyards completely underwater after any significant rainstorm. The code enforcement officer told me I could fill out a form to have the drainage issue in my neighborhood studied. But in his words, we are 18 months behind in entertaining those requests. So with this information and the frustration involved with interacting with various members of town government, I ask you, what exactly are the taxpayers in the town of Cicero receiving for all the property taxes we pay? If services across the board are continuing to be downgraded, why is the town going to enact a local law to exceed the property tax cap that has been in place for almost a decade? I'm certain that I speak for hundreds, if not thousands, of homeowners in the town of Cicero when I ask these questions. While it is understandable that all of New York State is facing dire economic conditions due to the pandemic, and a vote by taxpayers is not required to exceed the property tax cap, I ask each of you to think outside the box before you make this decision. I think it's only prudent that before the town of Cicero enacts a local law to exceed the property tax cap, town should provide the citizens with the reasons for enacting the local law. This information may already have been available, and I have just not seen it. But if all of you wish to continue getting the support of the community, being transparent with the reasons for the local law, and some form of estimate on how much the increase in property taxes could be, that should be made available. This, for the first time in 12 years living in town of Cicero, that I felt compelled to voice my opinion to the town board members. I'm not a troublemaker or a rabble rouser. Rather, I'm a retired police officer with over 30 years of public service, military, and law enforcement. Normally, I just keep my head down and my mouth shut. For this case, I could not. As elected officials, I feel your obligation is to make public the reasons behind the need to enact this local law, and that information should be distributed prior to the enactment of the local law that will obviously increase the property tax rate for many years to come. Thank you for your time and consideration. Next person, Pat Rizzo. Subject, we have increased the 2% limit for the budget year every year. So far, the residents have had no choice. Joyce Villeneuve, Joyce sent a number of emails that basically many of the same questions on their comments. So I'll just read one of those. You'll get the drift of her thoughts. First, the public hearing on the tax cap does not appear on the agenda. Second, I object to holding a public hearing on the tax cap as the data on which to support or reject the increase was not provided. On October 29th, I emailed asking when the proposed budget would be released to the public. We are entitled to know what the proposed budget is. Perhaps you should postpone the hearing on the tax cap until after a public hearing on the entire proposed budget. If the review of certain budget parts of the agenda tonight is supposed to suffice, it does not, as the proposed budget have not been posted yet. Are you planning to tell how much you'd like to bust the tax cap, or is that another state secret? Also, posting the agenda on Tuesday morning and limiting all input by emailing by 3:30 the same day is unreasonable. You seem to forget that more people are working and not able to send off a quick email during lunch. From Robert Willis, my wife Ruth and I are not in favor of repealing 2% tax cap for the 2021 Cicero budget. Thank you for your consideration. Keith Wolf, I'd like my opinion about the law to exceed the 2% cap to be recorded. I'm against such a law. Please enter my opinion against the law in the record. If it is the will of the board to enact the cap so that we have to go with the 1.56, that will demand extensive review by the board. That is not a decision I think that the board would want to do in essence, call major layoffs and major reductions of services. So if that's the will of the board,
Bill, I did have one more comment. I just wanted to make sure it got into the record.
I'll get you, Mike. So if that is the will of the board to not to exceed the tax cap, I'm looking for information. I'm sure all the board members would like input from the community, which departments we should have the layoffs in and what services they would like to adjust so that we can meet the 1.56. Mr. Bacala.
Thank you, Bill. I just want to make sure that this was read. Dear counselors, I am here tonight via email to comment on the proposed local law to exceed the 2% tax cap. Each of the past 10 years, almost without fail, various town boards have provided unending excuses to exceed the cap for the good of the people. It is time for the town to learn within its means. With so many in our community facing serious financial issues, with jobs lost or hours cut back, you cannot, in good conscience, place more on their backs. This is not the time to do so. It is therefore critical that this board act fiscally responsible and make the cuts necessary to stay under the 2% cap. You were not elected and handed an open checkbook by the citizens of Cicero. Please vote no on this proposal. Thank you. P.S. The town shutdown has been extended by the supervisor until November 10th, 2020. That will prevent public from attending any and all budget meetings. This is intolerable. I urge this council to resist passing any budget presented by the supervisor until the town hall is open to the citizens of Cicero. Thomas Ballou, Palm Summit Circle, Cicero.
Thank you. Any further items from the board? And again, I'm keeping the public hearing open so that the board members have an opportunity to have additional thoughts concerning this 2% cap, and for the residents to also have their input. So that being said, again, we'll keep the public hearing open and we'll address it in a future meeting. So, okay, Mike, you have the next item on the agenda, setting a public hearing for the next item here, number 4.
Set public hearing for October 28th, 2020 to consider a planned unit development for properties located at 8697 and 8699 Brewerton Road, tax cap number 092.-01-04.0 and number 092.-01-30.2. Whereas the property owner at 8697 and 8699 Brewerton Road, tax map number, 092-01-04.0 and number 092.-01-03.2 has requested a zone change. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the town board sets Wednesday, October 28th, 2020 at 6:30 p.m. for a public hearing to consider a zone change from general commercial to planned unit development for tax map number 092-01-04.0 and number 092.-01-03.2.
Thank you for the information of the residents. This is an item for the expansion of the senior housing on Route 11 near the library. So this has already gone through the planning board initial process. So further discussion on number 4.
We need a second.
Yep.
I'll second it.
Second.
Mrs. Boyke, second. So we have motion and second. Further discussion?
I believe that the first phase was a PUD. I had asked about why the PUD couldn't be extended. I'm not sure if I got the answer on that, but hopefully I'll have it before we have the public hearing. Thank you.
Further discussion on this item? Clerk will call the roll.
Counselor Boyke,
Yes,
Counselor Carr,
Aye.
Counselor White,
yes,
Counselor McCallum,
Aye.
Supervisor Meyer.
Yes, item is adopted. Ms. Boyke, number 5.
proposed local law enacting a one-year temporary moratorium of any solar array installations or solar utility substations. Whereas the town of Cicero has received applications for new commercial solar operations and solar utility substations within the town. And whereas the town does not currently have a comprehensive town policy or applicable town code provision to guide the town when determining proper land use consideration associated with the request. And whereas the town recognizes the need to study the matter further and develop a comprehensive policy and code provisions, we hereby move for the adoption of a resolution calling a public hearing on October 28th, 2020, commencing at 6:30 p.m. to consider the proposed Town of Cicero Local Law Number 10, enacting a one-year temporary moratorium on the consideration, approval, and development of any and all commercial solar array installations and commercial solar utility substations within the town of Cicero for a period of 1 year from the active date of the local law or sooner if new legislation amending the policy or code of the town of Cicero addressing commercial solar array permitting and installation is enacted. The purpose of this local law will be to stay all actions until the presentation, passage of amended town policy, local law to specifically exempt with proposed new commercial solar utility substations are approved. It is the intent of the local law to specifically exempt existing applications as of the date of the public hearing, as well as any and all non-commercial residential solar applications.
Okay, this is one part of the addressing the point of solar. There's been also some discussions on
Yeah,
on the taxes. That's a separate item. So that would be a separate board action. This is the starting of this action for the moratorium. So need a second on this item?
Second, Counselor Bacallo.
Okay. Discussion on this item?
I would just like to say that this has been an ongoing situation that obviously is going to present this motion to be able to locally have areas that are in the best interest of the residents of town to be applied. Thank you.
All right. So I guess the thought process is that this will give us an opportunity to kind of think about this for a little bit.
Yes.
Get some guidance from what's happened in other communities, see what works, see what doesn't work, see what the appropriate zoning is. And, like I said, give us a little time to think about it. So do we have a second there?
Mike Bacallo, second.
Okay, sorry, I missed that. Further discussion on the item? Clerk will call the roll.
Counselor Boyke,
Yes.
Counselor Carr,
Yes.
Counselor White,
yes,
Counselor McCallum,
Aye.
Supervisor Meyer.
Yes, item is adopted. Number 6, directing the town Cicero engineer to develop specification for the drainage maintenance and improvements contract for the town of Cicero. Whereas the current contract for drainage maintenance and improvements expires at the end of 2020, and whereas the town wants to seek competitive bids for the service, now therefore be resolved, the Cicero Town Board directs the town engineer to develop specifications to bid the contract valid for 2 years with
3 2-year extensions will be further resolved. The town engineer work with the town clerk to advertise and execute the bidding of this contract.
Second, Counselor Bicallo.
Bacallo. Discussion on number 6?
Supervisor, was it 3 1-year extensions or 3 2-year extensions?
I believe it's 2. Kate, could you correct me if I have that written wrong?
The resolution says,
It should be 2 years with 3 1-year extensions.
Okay, if I misread that, I apologize. It does say with 3 1-year extensions.
yes.
If I misread that, I apologize. So corrected by the engineer. Further discussion on the item?
Good catch, Nancy.
I'm sorry. What'd you say, Mike?
Oh, good catch by Nancy.
Okay, thank you. Clerk will call the roll.
Counselor Blakey,
Yes.
Counselor Carr,
Aye.
Did she call me? I didn't hear her.
Yes,
White,
Nancy?
We didn't hear count.
Meyer.
Yes.
I didn't hear it either. I didn't hear
I
it. So
didn't hear mine.
Nancy, are you a yes?
Counselor White,
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
Counselor Bacallo,
Aye.
Supervisor Meyer.
Yes, item is adopted. Michael, you have number 7?
Directing the town of Cicero engineer to develop specifications for the sanitary sewer repair and lateral installation contract for the town of Cicero. Whereas the current contract for sanitary sewer repair expires at the end of 2020, and whereas the town wants to seek competitive bids for this service, now therefore be it resolved, the Cicero Town Board directs the town engineer to develop specifications to bid the contract, valid for 2 years with 3 1-year extensions. And be it further resolved that the town engineer work with the town clerk to advertise and execute the bidding of this contract.
Need a second?
Second.
Mr. Carp, discussion on the item? Clerk will call the roll.
Counselor Blakey,
Yes.
Counselor Carr,
Yes.
Counselor White,
Yes.
Counselor Bacallo,
Aye.
Supervisor Meyer.
Yes, item is adopted. Okay, next item, Ms. Blakey.
Approve the expenditures for parks and court and comptroller offices to move. Whereas the town board required bids for the move of the parks, comptroller, and judge's office. And whereas the Parks Department received bids for facility upgrades necessary for the move. Therefore, now be it resolved that the Cicero Town Board approves the move and total project expenses not to exceed $43,500. Budget code A711045.
Need a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Carp. Discussion on the item?
I have discussion. I'm looking for my paperwork, sorry. On the bid proposal that I received, it also included a expenditure for the courts and the comptroller and the for painting and carpet and other expenses. I had wanted to ask who is going to be responsible for those costs? I asked Alka, and unfortunately, being new, she wasn't able to answer that question. Is Jody or Teresa on?
Yeah, they're Judy, it's all in that budget code. And those were separated out due to the request of the board members that they wanted to know the items that were directly for the move. And then they asked to have them separated out for any of the costs for the comptroller and cost part. So that breakout was responding to a request from the board. And Jody is on, I think.
Yes, Judy, that money was it's coming from Parks money. It was the $80,000 that was budgeted to support the Skyway Park parking lot grant that we were not able to move forward with this year because of COVID. So that money was going to be turned back into the town, and that's where that 43.5 inclusive of the comptroller's costs and court costs is coming from.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Those were not, I'm going to call required costs, except for part of the moving. But under the circumstances where we can have the comptroller and the courts get an opportunity to get that place freshened up a little bit, to give them a new working conditions, I thought it was a very reasonable item to include in the budget. Further discussion on the item?
Well, yes. As I had said before, that I feel that we actually have not truly addressed what the issue is, and the issue is the courts. I had an employee of the town say something to me about the inconvenience and almost intimidating situation when having to leave their office at the end of the day when courts are in session, that the judge was not at his bench yet, and there was a confrontation going on in the courtroom, and one of our employees had to pass through there in order to get out to go home. Moving one door up, I don't believe is going to improve this situation, but it was just a request that was asked of me to bring that to the board's attention. Thank you.
Further discussion on the item? Clerk will call the roll.
Counselor Blakely,
No.
Counselor Carr,
Aye.
Counselor White,
Yes.
Counselor McCullough,
Aye.
Supervisor Myers.
Yes, item is adopted. Next item on the agenda is approved removal of trees within the drainage easements at 8731 Larchmont and 6125 and 6127 Leslie Ann Path. Whereas hazardous and obstructive trees are impeding drainage flow within the easements of these locations. Now therefore be resolved that the town board approves on-site development to remove the trees and their stumps under Onondaga County Contract 00-10093 for $9,850, budget code SD 854040400. I did have one resident, Ms. Bevanese, who asked a question about this. And so I'm moving that. I need a second, and we can have Mr.
Second, Councilor McCallum.
Yep. Steve, would you like to add some further information to this item, number 9?
Sure. So these three locations, the Leslie Ann Path properties were a subject of a drainage complaint relative to the trees that are in the drainage swale and channel, causing obstruction of the drainage on the property. The property owner had removed the trees that he could. These are some larger trees that need to come out, their stumps ground out. And at the same time, there's a lot of saplings at 6125 that seem appropriate to get out now while we're doing this and prevent future problems in that drainage easement as well. The other one at Larchmont is a drainage easement as well, where there's a hazardous tree where limbs have fallen already into the Balmer Creek. They contacted the highway department. That's how we ended up looking at this. And the tree is going to need to be removed because it's going to continue to drop limbs. It's a large tree. And again, we decided to get a quote on that to get that tree removed to prevent any future drainage obstructions in the creek and within the easement.
Further discussion on number 9? Clerk will call the roll.
Yes.
Counselor Carr,
Aye.
Counselor White,
Yes.
Counselor McCullough,
Aye.
Supervisor Myers.
Yes, item is adopted. Okay, Mike, you have number 10. This is the Mike Bacallo agenda here. We have a lot of items here, Mike. So you get number 10.
Sure, a lot of people don't want to hear me talk, but thanks, Bill. Approval of.
Some days you get a lot, some days you get none, so.
I'll take it, right? Approval of removal and disposal of hazardous material from the oil water separator in the old highway garage. Whereas the old highway garage is in need of having the oil water separator emptied. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the town board approves Paragon Environmental Construction, Inc. in the amount of $7,630, lowest quoted price. 3 quotes were obtained. Miller Environmental Group, $8,575. Sun Environmental Group, $9,080, out of account code DB51324.
Wait a second.
Second.
Mr. Carp, discussion on the item? Clerk will call the roll.
Counselor Blakey.
Yes.
Counselor Carr.
Aye.
Counselor White.
Yes.
Aye.
Supervisor Myers.
Yes, item is adopted. Number 11, Mike?
Approve Municity Upgrade 2020. Whereas the town of Cicero needs to upgrade the municity product for the codes department, and whereas the town's computer consultant and director of codes department recommended the proposal attached. Upgrade now therefore be it resolved, the Cicero Town Board approved Municity Upgrade $23,750, budget code B801048.
Need a
Second.
Second, Ms. Waike. This is part of a upgrade overall. I believe Mr. Carp and Mr. Bacallo had some very specific recommendations over this over a period of time. And for all of you who kind of remember this, we've tried to take the, as I call it, low-hanging fruit and address some of these issues. So we're kind of going on that plan. Did I summarize it, Mr. Carp and Mr. Bacallo?
Yeah, it's right in the attachment here. It was a good job. The more specifics, Bird, has to do with the fact that Municipal is one of the programs that would not run on the new server that we have. That was moved, and it's difficult for the codes department to get into it, be able to, because it's that older system where remote access is difficult. This makes that remote access much easier.
Yep.
I also had a conversation with Steve today, and because I was sort of involved with the inception of the municity when we first brought it on board, and just looking at the software itself, I told Steve I would love to have the opportunity to have it myself in my own computer, because it's pretty nice, and it certainly is going to be an asset for our codes while they're out on their job, as opposed to having to collect data and then re-input when they come back. So it's a good move.
Like, again, to thank Mr. Carp and Mr. Bacallo for their expertise on this and continuing to upgrade our all our parts of our computers in the town of Cicero. So that being said, clerk will call the roll.
Counselor Blakey.
Yes.
Counselor Carr.
Yes.
Counselor White.
Nancy?
Counselor Bacallo.
Aye.
Supervisor Myers.
Yes, item is adopted. Michael, number 12.
Thank you.
The town board declares the following items from the highway department surplus. Whereas the highway department would like to declare the following items surplus and of no use to the town and to be sent to auction. 2009 Ford F-250 4x4 with lift gate and Fisher plow with 132,126 miles. Truck mount transfer fuel tank, 100 gallon. 2008 F-250 tailgate rear bumper. Assorted truck parts and filters. 4 reels with air hose. 2 Sterling ceiling mounted heaters. 5 outdoor LED lamps. Karcher pressure washer with burner pump motor burned out. Miscellaneous pipe and pipe fittings. Whereas the above items have no value to the town, now therefore be it resolved, the town board approve these items for auction.
Second.
Second.
Second, Mr. Carp. Discussion on the item? Hearing none, clerk will call the roll.
Counselor Blakey.
Yes.
Counselor Carr.
Aye.
Counselor White.
Yes.
Bacallo.
Aye.
Supervisor Myers.
Yes, item is adopted. Mike, number 13.
Approval of driveway apron ceilings at new roads. Whereas the highway department needs to seal the end of driveways where the new road meets to preserve it. Now therefore be it resolved, the town board approves Suitcoat Corporation the amount of $7,000 out of account code DB 511255, county contract number 4121.
Second.
Second.
We did have input again. It was from Joyce Villeneuve asking the question. I talked to Chris earlier. This is for all the roads that we've done this year, connecting the ceiling with the road and the driveways in neighborhoods. Correct, Chris?
Yes.
Further discussion on the item? Clerk will call the roll.
Yes.
Aye.
Yes.
Aye.
Yes, item is adopted. Next item is the board approves additional lighting on Creekview Drive, whereas it has been brought to the town's attention that Creekview Drive has street lights on it, but none at the end of the drive. Whereas National Grid has provided a proposal to install additional lighting. Now, therefore, it be resolved that the town board approves the lighting proposal for Creekview Drive. And I have a letter from National Grid outlining that their inspection and that area qualifies, and the estimated cost would be $520.92. So this would be an item in that special district. So I need a second.
Second.
Second, Mr. Carp. Discussion on number 14. Hearing none, clerk will call the roll.
Yes.
Aye.
Yes.
Aye.
Yes, item is adopted. Okay, next section for starting the next part for additional budget review. The board members received their information on September 30th. And I know many of them have been contacting the department heads to review the items in the budget. So here's an opportunity if the board members would like to, in this case, talk to the highway superintendent if they have any particular questions on the highway section. So Chris, you have it. Would you like to speak first?
No, answer any questions you have.
I do not have any. Chris, at this time, it was great to meet with you and go over your budget.
Thank you.
Hey, Mr. Wozniak, when we spoke earlier, I'd asked you about the reserve for equipment, the 245,000.
Yep, that is for a new truck this year, new snow plow. Yeah, Elka put it in there as a reserve. I don't know why it's listed as reserve. It's not reserve.
Okay. And then the list that you gave me earlier of the equipment in the 165,000, what was that? That was a dump truck. Do you have the list?
Hold on one second.
For the information of the board, when Chris and I were going over some of these things, I expressed my concern, and I believe a number of the other board members, that we weren't looking to borrow money. We're not looking to bond more, and so work on more of a pay-as-you-go approach. So I feel that was the consensus of most of the board members. So
absolutely,
kind of the way we're. So,
okay, John, it's for a crew cab to replace truck 15, a crew cab utility replace truck 32, and a F-150 pickup for the highway superintendent.
If I remember correctly, at least one of those are items that you'd requested in previous years that the board had been deferring the purchase of. Is that correct?
Yeah, it would be truck 1.
Okay, that's what I thought. All right, thanks. I don't have anything else. I appreciate you getting that information for me, Mr. Wozniak.
Chris, I apologize for not catching up with you yet. I obviously have managed to get to a couple of the other departments. I would like to obviously catch up with you to go over your budget with you, obviously before it becomes a preliminary. So if you don't mind.
No, anytime, Judy.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Chris was kind enough to answer a bunch of questions that I had earlier today, so that helped out a lot. But I assume this reserve fund is what we approved back in February.
No, this is for the 2021 budget. I don't know. It shouldn't say reserve. It's not from reserve.
I'm sorry, it says reserved. It was just, that's where 2020's equipment was expended out of. I should have made a new line and just called it equipment purchase.
Okay.
Okay, because in February, we approved the establishment of a highway reserve fund.
Yes.
Right. And then we bought the equipment.
Okay, so that was different.
Yes.
Yeah, we kind of one meeting, did one step, and the next meeting or one soon after that, we did the next step. So you're correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Wozniak, I'm sure you and your office manager and your foreman will all be available to answer. any
Yes,
questions from the board.
anytime.
Thank you. Further discussion on Mr. Wozniak and the Highway Department?
Not
Thank you.
at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Next is Parks. We have two outstanding folks who are ready for every and any question here. So.
All right, I'll take it over. Good
Okay.
evening.
Yep.
Before I get in,
I apologize. We have three. We have Ms. Broccoli also available. So between the three of you, I'm sure you have everything covered.
yeah. Before getting into the budget review, I wanted to, if you would allot me a couple minutes, I just wanted to give you a quick update on some of our program and facility offerings since the start of the pandemic. It was and continues to be key that we be flexible and adapting and be creative with our programs. While many of our traditional programs and events, such as our day camp program and summer concerts, did not run, we did have several we had great success with some outdoor programs, such as paddleboarding, sunset yoga, Pilates, and tennis camp. We started a summer walking club and an indoor youth art camp. We offered some virtual programs, including Operation Base Camp, which was free and was for the whole family. We posted activities for 6 weeks online. We also offered some virtual adult art programs. Currently, we have a few programs which are extending into the fall, and we're also busy planning for a drive-through Halloween event. As far as the senior center is concerned, we may have had to close the facility for in-person visits back at the onset of the pandemic, but we were, I think, the only senior center in the county that was able to continue uninterrupted with providing peace luncheons to our seniors 3 times a week. And then that was increased to 4 times a week. And then most recently was increased to 5 times a week to meet the need of our community and to help out Meals on Wheels that couldn't do that for the seniors. For most of the seniors, this is a drive-through, like they pick up the lunches, but we are actually delivering meals to some of the seniors that cannot, drive to the facility to pick them up. Over the summer, the seniors did have some outdoor programs and some park activities were offered. And last week, starting October 5th, we were able to reopen the center for in-person visits where we're offering some limited low-risk activities, but there's at least 1 activity per day offered Monday through Friday for the seniors in-house. As far as the canteen, we were able to offer some programs, some park visits throughout the summer. They're currently one of a few after-school programs still functioning. Although the program looks very different than it did in the past years, the canteen staff are still meeting with some of the students in person after school and following the guidelines that the school has provided. But most of their support and interactions with the teens are through various social media platforms. I've been forwarding, hopefully you've had a chance to review the past weekly reports, and it just shows that the teen center staff are still connecting daily with our teens, and they really need it more than ever right now. Okay, as I move into reviewing the proposed budget, I just want to preface by saying the budget was developed with the mindset or hope that we could offer programs and services, facilities similar to what we had done in pre-COVID times. The budget numbers are real similar to what was proposed for 2020. And I was going to approach it with, I have the budget packet here in front of me, and I kind of wanted to just go flip through the pages in order and highlight some things for you, and feel free to ask questions as we go along. Is everyone okay with that?
Yes.
Yep, go ahead.
Okay. So flipping through, I wanted to note on page 4, there's a line item there where Parks and Recreation pole barn. It was currently under operations for the town hall, that's 6,600. Just know we discussed it and Elka agreed that we should move that line item to be in the parks budget and not under the town hall. So that actual 6,600 right there needs to be deleted because it was moved to item 711056. All right, if you continue flipping through to page 7, I was going to start with some of the economic development items. If you all see them, they start the $40,000. I just wanted to identify this is what the DOT is requiring for us when it's time for us to acquire or take over those 2 parcels there by the bridge. The $65,000 that's listed there is the town's share of the grant that has already been approved. And this is the grant to improve the Guy Young to Baldwin Street intersections on both sides of the street. And the $6,500 is to finalize our 10-year master plan, which is required. It's required of us to do that and submit that in order to be eligible for future grant funds. And the $2,500 listed there is the amount that John, our engineer, to write a new grant that he feels that we could qualify for and could help improve that area as well. So those are the items under economic development. I don't know if you have any specific questions with that. Jody may help if you have questions on those.
No, I went over it with you, so I'm good.
Okay. As far as the programs for aging, I'm really going to only highlight the ones that kind of stand out. So stop me if there's other questions, but you'll note there on page 8, item 677248, there's 13,550. This is funds to continue with sidewalk replacement out to the parking lot of the senior center. We were able to do some of that work with the grant that we recently finished improving the entrance to the center. But this is to finish that and do some improvements as well out to the parking lot. The 11,100 is the town's portion of the community development grant to basically make the south exit of the senior center ADA compliant. It also includes some funds for some improvements for flooring and counters and stuff like that. But that's what those 2 line items are for. Does anything stand out? Any questions relating to the senior center?
No.
Okay. Continuing on that page 8, under parks, the big ticket item there, $25,000. That is budgeted to replace our 2009 van. This is definitely needed. We have some extreme rust in the undercarriage, and it's unlikely that it's going to pass inspection. The next big line item there further down, the $107,000. The majority of that, $80,000, is the Skyway Park parking lot grant that we were talking about earlier. That was actually scheduled to happen this year, but didn't because of COVID, but we will be doing that. Also included in there is some needed tree removal and to pave the Plank Road West parking lot. I don't know if there's anything else there worth noting. Overtime for parks staff went up a little bit, and this is mainly to account for plowing. For the staff, they're going to have to come in earlier. We actually have 4 facilities that they have to plow and have open and accessible by 8 a.m. The senior center, canteen, town hall, and now Williams Beach for our offices. And also that will allow overtime for weekend rentals that we have as well. Next, page 9. What else? Okay, so this, you're gonna have to give us some direction on how the board wants to go with this, but this is under the beach. Rather, we budgeted there for the hope that we will reopen the beach for swimming. We have a plan or some ideas that we're working on to hopefully get past the challenges of being able to hire lifeguards for being able to open the park for swimming. But again, that's based on, you know, what the board's pleasure is. If you decide not to do that, that $32,000 line item would come out. Most of that is for the payroll for lifeguards. Some of the other expenses would certainly be affected if you decided not to open the beach as well because of some supplies and training and so forth. But that's the main ticket item increase there. For each of these departments, you'll see a nominal increase in payroll, but that's again due to the increase in minimum wage. And also we're trying to bring some of the staff up so that the minimum hourly rate is $15 an hour. And to make that the same with also the highway department staff as well. Anyone have any questions?
I don't have any questions. The only comment I would make is that under the circumstances, I'm not in favor of opening the beach next year either. I think we need to cut that and then all the expenses we can related to that out of the budget.
I agree.
My thoughts there as well.
Ms. White, do you have a comment on that or?
Sorry, I muted. I was leaning that way also. I just wanted to see what the numbers were. I do see there's porta johns on here twice. Is there a reason for that?
Good question.
What do you mean on twice? Where?
On page 9.
Yep.
About halfway down, there's a porta.
Yep. Mine, where it says minus 50 in the final budget percentage.
Yeah, there's one further up, 2 different lines, I think is what she's saying. The line ending in 4.9 and the line ending in 4.3. 1049 and 5043 are both say porta john. Are this just for different locations?
Two
That may
different.
be.
Go ahead, Teresa.
Yeah, I believe it's because of 2 different locations. Yes.
Okay, that makes sense.
One's parks and one's beach.
Would we still need the porta john at the beach?
Yes, because you have times when no one's going to be there and you've got people who want to use the playground and whatnot. Because if staffing wise, you've got some monitors there, but they won't come in till about 11 o'clock to manage the pavilions. So anyone that's there before 11 o'clock, generally, there's no place for them to take their young children to go to the bathroom.
Okay.
And if you have, and if you decide not to open the beach, like this time, we've had rentals up until this past weekend. There's no staff on the weekends. If you don't have lifeguards on there to unlock the facilities, the people that rent the pavilions use the porta potty.
Let me, and I understand this is a budget thing, so I just want to ask a question. One of the parks that I've been to in Fayetteville has time locks on the restroom facilities. Is that something they lock and unlock automatically at certain times of day? Is that something we could do so we wouldn't have to have a staff member there to lock and unlock the restroom facilities?
Problem with that, John, out at the beach is there's so much transient traffic, contractors and whatnot through there. If you just left that facility open for, 6 or 7 hours in the day, there's no one there to manage what's happening inside those facilities. And you just spent $80,000 2 years ago to upgrade all of that. I just would be very leery. People don't have the same regard for facilities if there isn't somebody there checking every now and then.
I can tell you from past experience too, where I worked, we did that, we unlocked them. And what we would come back to, sneakers, tennis balls stuffed in the toilets, clogged toilets, feces on the floor, like just whatever. If you don't know who's accountable for the time, then there's no staff there, it can get really hairy.
Okay, All right, just asking. Thank you.
Okay, yep.
I know this is a rather lengthy budget, a lot of departments, a lot of components there, so I'm sure you and your staff will be available for other questions, right? So
Yeah, I apologize. It just came to my mind. I
Yep,
asked.
yep, no problem. No problem.
when you got the opportunity, go with the questions. So I'm just gonna stop you there just for a second, Ms. Roth.
Yes.
And further questions of the board?
I'm good.
Okay, so we're good on that. Please, if you have any questions of any of the park staff, please contact them directly and we'll make sure your questions are answered.
Bill, I just wanted to make a quick comment if I could.
Yep.
Number one is, I can tell you for sure that Teresa was the right selection. She's a quick study. She's only been there a month. Her major project was the move and all of the bidding. And she has really put a good grasp on that budget. So hats off to her. She's
Yep.
doing a great job.
Great job.
Yeah, along that line,
My teacher.
along that line, I had to talk to Mayor Butterfield about something about a month ago, and he lamented losing her, and I can see why.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, so we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, planning and zoning, and I see Steve. You're up.
Yeah, thank you. I'll just make a couple brief statements, and then if the board has any questions, let me know. The proposed budget numbers for all accounts are very similar, the same as they were in 2020. I just point out with the board's action tonight to purchase that software. The budget number for that this year was $45,000. That included annual maintenance. I had carried that over to 2021, not knowing when we would be able to purchase that software. Obviously, you know now that that cost is significantly less, and we do not have a annual maintenance fee for the first year. So that budget number is going to reduce significantly, and because of the phase schedule, I'm not sure yet. Phase payment schedule based on the implementation, how much will come out this year and how much will be needed next year. But I'll work that out once we sign the agreement, and I talked to Elka about that. Other than that, there's equipment from this year carried over to next year, the $25,000 for a vehicle for a vacant position I have yet to have filled. And I just wanted to point that out. And if anybody has questions, let me know.
Questions?
I'm good.
I'm good.
Hearing none. Again, I assume the offer is still out there, Steve, to answer any of their questions.
Of course. Yep.
Steve's there every day, so you can easily reach him. Okay, next, the legal budget review, that was pretty condensed in the budget pages. One thing that isn't visible but is very important is that Mr. Jermaine also is kind of our legal manager, and that sometimes we have outside services, and he helps to manage when we need those outside services. So any questions from the board members on the legal side?
Nope.
Good.
Okay, thank you. Okay, special districts. Special districts is pretty well condensed down to one page. There's a special district summary in there. As you know, we have very little control over most of the special districts. One item that I'm sure we're going to have a great deal of attention and discussion over the next few weeks is the trash and brush. Unfortunately, as you know, the cost of trash and recyclables is going up. So we've been paying a lot of attention to that. So hopefully the bids come in favorably, and so the impact won't be too bad. So any particular questions you have of Elka on the special districts?
Not at this time.
Yeah. Okay, and just for all the other residents out there, Elka's doing a fantastic job, and she's been available not only daytime, of course, but evenings and weekends. So all the board members have had an opportunity to visit with her day and night in all times. So again, thank you. Okay, I spoke briefly on the information systems. Thank you in particular again to Ms. Bacallo and Mr. Karp. We've made some progress on the computers and software. Obviously, Wayne and David were also involved in this over the last few months. So slowly but surely, we're making progress. We have to
we can't just keep working harder, folks. We have to work smarter, and this is a valuable tool so that we can work smarter. So if you have any questions, I'm going to defer them to Wayne, just so you know. Question?
Good.
Okay, thank you. The court review, I talked to Judge DeMarche briefly today. He had no further information that he wanted to add to the board. There's any questions or problems? So any questions from the board on the court budget?
Not this time for
Not
me.
this time.
Okay, thank you. Debt service, very important part of the budget. The new comptroller, Elka, put together a review of the debt service. I believe that was sent out to all the members. I know some of them had some questions on it, good questions. So want to address any of that, Elka, as far as our debt situation?
Well, in 2020, we paid off about $1.4 million in debt. According to our repayment schedule in 2021, we'll be paying back $940,000, which kind of levels off for the next 2 years. We have scheduled $981,000 for 2022 and $933,000 for 2023. That's assuming no new additional borrowings for bands. We were able to extend our repayments for the 2016 bands for an additional 2 years. The governor signed into legislation in August to rescind the 5-year repayment and extend it to 7 years. So we're taking advantage of that to sort of level it off. So that helps the appropriation side of the budgets.
Okay, and I think there's been one common theme, again, I'm repeating myself, that the board has said that they're not generally in favor of increasing or continuing bonding or bans unless we absolutely have to. So one thing that comes up is the interest rate is very favorable, but I'm going to call the closing cost. All the documents you have to get together to do these documents can be rather expensive, and that can, again, have an impact on the budget. So that being said, I think Elka did a great job on the debt service part. Any questions from the board on the debt service?
Yeah, Elka, again, I appreciate it. This budget process has been awesome this year. I appreciate all your work, and I'll be taking up on probably seeing you this weekend. So I appreciate it.
I think we might be closed on Sunday. Wayne's going to do computer work, so come Saturday.
So hopefully I don't bug you too much. But if you could just refresh could you give me again, it was like, I think it was just under 12 million, the total?
The total debt right now is for all bonds, bands, and we have a little installment purchase debt for some highway equipment, was $11,950,000.
Thank
We're
you.
scheduled to pay off 300 and can't see anything. We're scheduled to pay off 940,000 next year, which will leave us with just over 11 million in debt. A lot of that is for the, as you know, the bonds for the highway garage.
Yeah, we will be having to address the debt, not only in this next few weeks, but in the first of the year, we'll be talking more about it. So that being said, any questions on the debt service?
Great job, Elka.
Okay, thank you.
You don't want to miss anything. Big mistake.
Okay. Under discussion, we're going to continue the budget review. And so I'm calling for a special board meeting next week, October 21st, 6:30. And again, we'll continue the budget review at that time. Any further discussion, board members?
Yes, Mr. Meyer, now that our council is here, I would like to bring up old business, the body camera discussion from last week, and I'd like to read a resolution.
Okay.
Resolved, the Cicero Town Board authorizes the purchase of 10 WatchGuard V300 body-worn cameras and associate accessories, licenses, and a server pursuant to a price quote dated September 23rd, 2020. This resolution authorizes the Chief of Police to submit an appropriate purchase order with said price quote attached, directs the comptroller to sign it and take all actions necessary to facilitate this purchase, directs the supervisor to execute any and all documents necessary to put this resolution into effect, and authorizes any town board member to execute such documents on behalf of the town.
Second, Counselor Bacallo.
Mr. Carp, if I understand, if I'm remembering this right, this was as a result of discussions you were having on contract discussions with the PBA.
That is correct.
Yes.
And you made clear in an email that you sent to the negotiating committee over the weekend that you do not recognize the negotiating committee's authority to conduct such negotiations and do not consider yourself bound by the results of said negotiations. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Mr. Germain, did the town board have the authority to designate a negotiating committee for the PBA contract?
Yeah, well, I think it's an exercise of judicial and legislative power that a majority board has the authority to bind the board.
Thank you.
Okay, again, I do not recognize that. I do not think that the town councilor has the authority to negotiate a contract. And since Mr. Carp is validating that it was part of the contract, I stand in opposition, and I am not acquiescing in this position.
Okay. Should I ask the clerk to call the roll, Mr. Meyer, or will you?
Oh, I can call it. Further discussion on the item? Clerk will call the roll.
Counselor White,
Yes.
Counselor Carr,
Aye.
Counselor White,
Yes.
Counselor Bacallo,
Aye.
Supervisor Wyant.
No. Item is adopted.
Thank you.
Okay, further discussion items?
I have nothing today.
Nothing at this time.
The public input items were addressed as the items came up on the agenda. Mr. Bacallo.
I did have one more that came in late this afternoon. I want to make sure that I got it in as well. By the way, I appreciate we're making sure that the public does at least have a say at these meetings, and I appreciate that. So I have one from Deborah Gardner that came in this afternoon. On January 22nd, 2020, the town board voted to have Councilor Carp, Chief Rotuno, and Robert Germain negotiate the police contract. The vote was 3-2. I understand that Supervisor Meyer was a dissenting vote. What I do not understand is why Mr. Meyer considers it inappropriate for Councilor Carp to negotiate use of body cameras when Chief Rotuno and Mr. Germain and Mr. Carp agreed to it. Will Mr. Meyer please explain? I believe you have, but if you want to, you can explain again. I would like to add that I am pleased that the town now has a police chief who supports both the town's police force and the people who come in contact with them by endorsing the use of body cameras. My second issue is with the extension of the state of emergency to November 10th. Supervisor Meyer's previous explanations were weak. Wearing face coverings and social distancing are considered the two best ways to avoid transmitting COVID-19. We can dine in, attend church services, send children to school, go into stores and shop and do a myriad of other activities. Perhaps Mr. Meyer should contact other town supervisors in surrounding towns and ask them how they have avoided declaring state of emergency. I would like to remind everyone that the town of Cicero is governed by 5 people, not 1. I would like to see the town board take appropriate action to end this unnecessary state of emergency. Thank you, Deborah V. Gardner.
Thank you. Any further items? Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all in favor, indicate by saying aye. Aye. Okay, we're adjourned. See you on the 21st. Thank you, folks.
Thank you.